It's been a while since I last uploaded, and I've cooked up a pretty long video here today discussing Destiny 2 PvP and just my thoughts on the current state of it and my ideas for how to improve PvP. Because where we're at right now, we're exiting a meta right now where 50% of the players were using one subclass. Half the player base was on Prismatic Hunter for the last few weeks. It's been atrocious. They're finally getting around to nerfing it. It took them longer than it usually does, which is odd. The layoffs must be affecting them a little bit in that regard. And we're finally exiting it, and it's just like we cannot afford to repeat these same cycles again. So I have a bunch of ideas in this video to try and help avoid that. A lot of them are weapon focused, but some of them are ability focused, and I really just want to see this game move in a different direction than it's at right now. And I doubt that it'll go in the direction I'm about to talk about in this video, but you gotta believe. So I got a bunch of changes here, and I'm gonna start rattling them off. So enjoy the video. Alright, so let's start moving down this list. The first thing I have is sensitivity customization. We currently operate on like a 1 to 10 or 1 to 20 sensitivity scale with no fine tuning in between those numbers. I really think that system should be overhauled to be more around like a 1 to 100 system, like we have in like some of the COD games and Battlefields, and maybe even including some decimal places on top of that. Because me personally, I'm at 4 cents, and I would really like to be slightly lower than that, but I can't do that. I have to go all the way down to 3, and then I'm way too slow. I would love if there was, if it was 1 to 100, I'd be more at like 38 sensitivity. Can't do that yet. I would really like to see that. I don't know if that's an engine limitation or if they just don't care enough to implement a feature like that, but it'd be really cool to see that. Again, you could apply that to the ADS sensitivity scaler as well and give that some more decimal places. And yeah, I think that'd be an easy one. Now I want to talk really quickly on some of the annoying things still lingering around the meta. The new Hunter Super that came out, the Arc Super, isn't balanced. It's too easy to use. You do not need to aim it enough, and they need to change that. Like, the ease of use has to be tuned down a little bit. People can miss and just throw stuff too far off target and still course correct back toward you. It's really dumb, and it's also hard to jump above the Super. It just tracks so much to you. It's stupid. I'd like to see that nerfed a little bit, not extremely. Like, they tend to overdo some of these nerfs. The Super is on Arc Hunter, and Arc Hunter needs a good Super, so I don't want it to like ruin that. But for Prismatic, it's problematic, so it has to be brought down a little bit. The Titan Super, the new Titan axe throwing thing, it's pretty strong. The biggest problem I have with it, though, is that you can't break the axes. I don't know why. Like, why aren't they destroyable? It's really stupid. It's a simple change there. Let us break the axes, so they have to think a little bit more about how far away they're going to throw them to kill people. And they most likely just won't be able to retrieve them if they really throw them that far. Same goes for Diamond Lances. I think they should be destroyable. This won't come up very often at all, but there are situations where there's one lying around, and I feel like I'd like to be able to destroy it, especially since their teammates, the enemy teammates, can pick it up too. So even if I killed the Titan, I'd like to get rid of that Diamond Lance so no one else can get it. Even continuing with that, their blast radius, I think, is too large too. They buffed them prior to Prismatic coming out. They are really strong. You can miss by, I think, too big of a degree and still freeze people. Because we're dealing with freezing people here. Like, you shouldn't be able to freeze people this easily in a freaking PvP game. So I'd like to see that just taking a look at. And hopefully these changes get more interesting as we go. But here's another one. I think there are several clear underperforming grenades in PvP. For example, solar grenades suck. Skip grenades suck. Void spikes suck. Axion bolts, they got nerfed way too hard. All they had to do was make them easier to shoot, which they succeeded in doing, and then they brutalized their cooldown. They shouldn't have that long of a cooldown, so all of these grenades I just mentioned, and probably several more, should have slightly shorter cooldowns. Some of them need damage buffs, like solar grenade and void spike really need damage buffs. They just tickle people right now. They do not do enough damage. They're not effective zoning tools, in my opinion. And they need little buffs. And part of the issue here is there's enhanced grenade aspects all over the place. And they're really detracting from the base versions of a lot of grenades. Like, for example, the base stasis grenades are pretty lame. And that really affects Titans. Stasis Titan, to be specific. They don't have any way to improve the grenades. So they just have really weak versions of those grenades. They have bad dust fields and bad cold snaps specifically. The enhanced glacier isn't really that important. Like, both versions function about the same, but lacking enhanced versions of the dust fields and cold snaps is very detrimental to that subclass. I'd honestly like to just see the enhanced grenade aspect for stasis hunters removed entirely, and some of the benefits it gives just be made intrinsic to dust field and cold snap. Like, dust fields just have a slightly bigger radius than it does currently, and Cold Snap can just travel a little bit faster, maybe a little bit further. And like that's it. That's all they have to do. Just these really are kind of a problem. I think in the future they should not add in any more aspects that enhance grenades. Not that there's going to be much opportunity to do that. They might add in one more super in this game maybe. But if they do add that super in, I don't think there should be an enhanced grenade aspect. I think they're quite bad for the game, and that should just be allotted entirely to exotic armor. Like exotic armor should be the only thing enhancing abilities to that degree, in my opinion. Okay, so we're kind of exiting my pretty basic complaints about abilities, and we're entering into the how to make people play the game differently section. And here I'm going to talk about hipfire. I want there to be more hipfire perks first of all, because currently we only have one passive hipfire perk in hipfire grip and a kill activated one in offhand strike. And there's a couple of obvious ideas I think, like a hipfire perk designed around being in combat, like Frenzy or Perfect Float, or a hipfire perk designed around hitting shots and building up stacks like Zen Moment, Rapid Hit, Precision Instrument, something like that. And they can provide similar benefits to the ones that we have now, like giving more stability, aim assist, range, and precision aim angle, like stuff like that, accuracy reduction to the weapon as you activate those perks. And I think there's a lot of ground in between hipfire grip and offhand strike that they can operate in with perks like that. On top of that though, on top of new hipfire perks, I just think a small buff to base hipfire performance is needed in general. Like, and I'm mostly talking about range. All weapons have a hipfire range and an ADS range, if you didn't know. And the ADS range is usually anywhere from 20 to 100% further. So your gun literally might have twice the range while ADSing than hipfiring. And I think that's the case for like hand cannons and sky rifles. That is atrocious. Like on sidearms it's 20%, which I think is perfect for sidearms, and would be really nice to get closer to that for all weapons, because when you run hipfire grip on a sidearm, you have the same range while hipfiring as ADSing. And I don't think all guns should be like that, but I think they should bring that 100%, that extreme end, down to like 50. Like we should be more in the 30 to 50% range for hipfire reduction. Because like the fact that it's so severe is pretty ridiculous. Because here are the main benefits to hipfiring. You have faster strafe speed, you have full field of view, and your radar stays up. All those things lend hipfire very well toward, they lend themselves very well toward close quarters combat, which is awesome. The issue is though, the drawbacks to hipfire, you have significantly less range, which isn't necessarily a problem if you're going to use hipfire just in close quarters. But where the problems come in is you have high amounts of bloom, you have a lack of aim assist, you have extremely disruptive flinch while hipfiring, because you can't have unflinching mods because they only work while you're ADSing. Same goes for the targeting mods. You're not getting any benefit from them while you're firing from the hip. And you also have terrible in-air performance. So currently, you can't really remedy all those issues with just the two hipfire perks we have. Like if you're using Dead Man's Tale or Last Word, they kind of have innate stuff going on, or BXR Battler. But normal legendary weapons, they just can't hipfire. Even if you build into them, they can't do it. I'd really like to see that changed. I'd like to see the base hipfire range brought up, and more hipfire perks to actually make guns viable when firing from the hip. Because firing from the hip is a really interesting alternative playstyle to just the status quo, aim down your gun, and throw abilities. Like the more perks and stuff you add in, the less people are going to have of the other stuff in the game, because you're picking to be a hipfire player instead of a throw a bunch of grenades player, or kill chaining, kill clip player. Alright, we'll move on from that though. Here's a random thing that I don't like about AE. Shotgun pellet spread is like 15 or 20% wider in the air, and there's nothing you can do about it. Even if you're at 100 AE on your shotgun, which isn't even possible to reach really, you don't get rid of that negative. Like why? Why can't speccing into AE actually negate that penalty? Same goes for being at 100 AE with a primary weapon. You have 60% of your aim assist. There's just a massive aim assist penalty for no reason. When I get to 100 AE on any gun, it should just be operating the same as it does on the ground. End of story. If they want to make that a little bit of an exponential curve so that you got to really get toward the high end to really reap those benefits, fine. That's already how it's set up, but it's set up that way, and you only get to 60% of your aim assist. Or in cases with shotguns, you have just a penalty no matter what. Like, it's really dumb. I'm so tired of this stuff. Like, there's no need for this anymore. So hopefully, like, stuff like that can really just be done away with once and for all. On top of that, just continuing with weapon performance, they've been reducing flinch a lot recently, which is awesome. It's really awesome. I don't know how much more they can do it without making a lot of the flinch reduction things in this game become a little bit pointless, so they don't need to push it too much further. Just maybe keep targeting some of the outliers that are kind of annoying. I think explosive payload's been brought in pretty well. But Now that they've done that, I think there should be a little bit of recoil increases. Now, I'm asking for a nerf here, actually. I don't think learning recoil is even rewarding at all in this game, and I feel like it should be to a very small degree. Obviously, headshots are super important, so you can't have guns kicking all over the place, but I'd like it to where I feel like I've learned the recoil of a gun more than another player, and that actually lets me win the gunfight rather than us both just kind of trading out. Not asking for much there, like literally just small recoil increases here or there, just to make the game more interesting. Here's a big one, and this is a weird one that I don't understand how they haven't thought of. The various jump abilities in this game like really need to be revisited. For PvP, Warlocks only use Burst Glide, Hunters mainly use Strafe Jump, and Titans mainly use Catapult Lift. Like, Warlock Strafe Glide, for example, I think it should last longer than the other two boosts. Like, you literally just can boost around for a significantly longer period of time. And they could even improve its directional control to the point where you're almost able to hit like an in-air strafe by going back and forth. Like, make it all about being up in the air. They could even give it the ability to let you shoot your weapons while boosting. Would that be a little bit overpowered? Maybe. And maybe that would get too close to what Heat Rises could do, but Heat Rises is only on Solar Warlock, so this could be an option for all the other classes to get up in the air. For Hunters and Titans, high jump is garbage. It is complete garbage. It provides no benefit to your in-air performance. It just takes you straight up into the air to die. Like, it's literally just a suicide button. Because here's multiple issues with it. One, it's slow and doesn't go forward that much. And two, it accelerates you so fast up in the air that it causes that severe animation where you just turn into a noodle when you hit the boost button and you can't aim for like a second. And then when you land, since you were up so high in the air, you also turn into a noodle again and can't shoot at your opponents. Like, your gun just flops everywhere from hitting the ground. Those two things need to be reduced when using those two jumps. And I think those jumps should just give you AE. Maybe even Strafe Glide too. Just give you like 15 AE for having them equipped. Why not? They're taking you up in the air. Why wouldn't they improve your performance in the air? I feel like that's just a clear win. And going back to Strafe Glide, because here's the issue with Warlock. Hunters and Titans have 3 boosts that could all be viable. Warlocks have a boost called Balance Glide. I don't know if you remember that being in the game, because literally 0 people use it. The more they differentiate Strafe Glide from Burst Glide, the more Balance Glide actually has a place. Because currently, I don't think they differentiate each other enough to where there's any point in using the in-between option. But if they did do what I'm saying and like really make Strafe Glide cater toward this one playstyle where you're floating around, zigzagging and stuff like that, and Burst Glide be the fast movement tool, then Balance Glide might actually be a worthwhile pick. But it's currently completely useless. Blink as well. I think that should improve, or should see an improvement to its ready speed. You don't ready your weapons quick enough out of Blink. Like, you just don't. There's a major delay in the animation before your gun comes out. I think it should be reduced a little bit. You can't be aggressive enough with Blink. I don't... Imagine this. Imagine if they took away the penalty for the most part. Like, basically, once the Blink animation finishes, your gun's already coming out instead of the delay we have now. I think you'd see a lot of people immediately go and start trying to Blink shotgun again. Would that be so bad? Instead of everyone just using Prismatic Hunter for the last few weeks, it would have been half Prismatic Hunters and half Blink Shotgunners. That's already 2 options instead of 1. That's a huge win. Like, they don't have to go that far, but a small buff there I think is warranted and really wouldn't do anything other than increase the diversity of the way people are playing in the game and make things more interesting. Here I have a section called Random Perk Ideas. One idea I have, and this is already in Destiny 1, is the Perk Shot Package. It's technically in Destiny 2 as well, but it's actually in the form of a frame, a Felwinter's Lie. It's the only shot package frame shotgun. But they nerfed it so many times that it really doesn't have any benefit. It's just an aggressive frame shotgun. So moving shot package to the perk column to be got there, I think would be a cool thing. It would just reduce the pellet spread by whatever amount, 10%, whatever gives it a similar range bump to opening shot. But this perk's innate drawback would be that it is tightening the pellet spread to give you more range, which makes the shotgun less forgiving if you're slightly off target, which I think is a fair trade-off. So if you're accurate, you're going to kill further. If you're not, you're going to do less damage. Seems like a solid perk idea to me that could compete with opening shot and make more shotguns have an option. Because if a shotgun doesn't have opening shot currently, it's just not going to be meta. It's not viable. Another perk idea I have is Gung Ho. This is a trait, or whatever you call it in Call of Duty. I think they're actually called perks there as well. And the idea for this perk is that you could reload while sprinting, and you could, maybe get quicker ready and ADS speed after sprinting as well. And possibly on top of that, a quicker recovery animation after jumping and landing. So obviously when you do those two things, you turn into a noodle. So this could be a perk based all around that type of stuff, just letting you stay on the move and operate your guns while on the move. Could be a fun perk. I don't think it'd be anything too crazy. Obviously, they can't let you shoot while sprinting. That would get out of control, but reload while sprinting, I think it would be really cool. I don't know if they could pull that off in Destiny. That would actually require a lot of effort in terms of opening up reload animations during sprint. That would probably look a little weird, but hey, it could be cool if they can make it a thing. Another idea, bring back Third Eye from Destiny 1. I mean, like, it's a great perk. You get radar while aiming down sights. It's great for snipers. It would be good for scout rifles, even pulses. It just doesn't exist in this game. I don't know why. Obviously, we have knucklehead radar, but that's only on Hunter. Like, Titans and Warlocks don't have any option like that where they can keep radar up while ADS. So I think they should make Third Eye do that. Bring it back. Moving on from perk ideas, I have a brief section here just talking about special ammo and my current thoughts on the system we have right now. I hate special ammo crates, and I just don't want them to be in the game. End of story. Like, no more special ammo crates. I either want the meter system or the brick system. One good thing that came out of the current system we have right now is when you kill someone, they drop a special brick only for you to be able to pick up. That is a great feature, and if we just had the old special ammo brick system in like Control, starting with 2 ammo, everyone you kill drops 1 brick, and only you can pick that up, that would be great. And even on top of that, I think I don't know if they never thought of this or they're just not considering it. Why aren't they reducing the time bricks stay on the ground? They stay on the ground for like 30 seconds. Maybe they should bring that down to like 25 to 20 seconds. Obviously, that's in place to allow snipers and scout rifle users to retrieve their ammo, because sometimes you have to move pretty far to go get it. They can't make it like 5 seconds. You won't be able to pick up your own ammo. Everyone will be using shotguns. But if they just had that set up for Control, like 20-second bricks on the ground after every kill only for you to pick up, I would much prefer that for quick play. As far as trials goes, I think they should have the checkmate system. I think it was the best thing we've had, the special ammo meter to be specific. I just wish that special ammo kills, ability kills, melee kills gave a little bit of progress toward that meter, and it wasn't just objectives and primary kills. The fact that they're the only thing that gives progress, I think, is a little bit dumb. And it makes things like using a wave frame with the sidearm a little bit better than they probably should be, because you're always going to be cleaning up with your primary and getting more progress towards special. Whereas if you just kill someone with a shotgun, you don't. So I would like to see those two systems in place where trials and comp have less special, quick play has a good amount of it. That's just how I would like things. That's my take. So moving on from that, the next section I actually wrote on the document that Arc Warlock is an abomination. It is horrendous. The Lightning Surge melee has been outsourced to Prismatic. There's no reason to use it on Arc Warlock anymore, and anything left of it was basically harvested and redistributed out to the other 3.0 subclasses in the form of Jolt. We lost Arc Web. That was basically all we had. So there's really nothing left here. The only interesting thing about Arc Warlock is its interactions with Amplified and how that can improve the melee abilities, which I think is very cool and should be explored further. Here's one idea I came up with. I think Chain Lightning should have further melee range than the base melee. I'm not sure if it does currently. It might, but I think it should be cranked up to 11. I'm thinking like 7 meters of melee range, and then if you're amplified, like 8 to 9, maybe even 10 meters, because that melee doesn't lunge in the same way that the other ones do, or they could at least design it not to. You could just aim at the target and zap them for like whatever, 115 damage, and then if there's anyone else nearby, I can chain them. I think that'd be really cool. And anything to make shotgun meleeing a little bit more fun, even if it's, you can only do it every so often because you need the melee charge, would be a good change in my opinion. Another idea I had, this comes in the form of like a substitute for the general class abilities. We have Phoenix Dive on Solar. Maybe they could incorporate something like Ionic Blink on Arc, similar to what you do in Stormcaller. And maybe when you're amplified, it travels even further and disorients people at the exit point. Like, different things like that, just more movement abilities, more things that get people off of just using Rift would be cool, because Rift and Barricade are problematic in Trials of Osiris because it's zone capture. They're very good there. Right now, fortunately, Titans are just in such a bad spot that you're not seeing a lot of Barricades going around, but the second they start to get buffed again, the Barricades will return in full force. So more class abilities that provide alternatives to just setting up forts would be really cool. For Void Warlock, they could do, I forget what it's called, whatever Nova Warp does. It's like some dark blink. They could make that a class ability. I'm sure there's ideas on Titan as well. Another one I wrote down for Hunters, they could add in a dodge that doesn't do anything. and just charges fast. Like, because currently we have a dodge that reloads, and the other dodge gives you your melee back if you're close to people. Maybe they could just make a dodge that just is fast charge time, and you just dodge. You just use it to, you know, escape, get around corners and stuff. Would that be a really strong pairing with Wormhusk Crown and Threaded Spectre? Maybe. You know, maybe. That could be problematic, but it would be another option. Could be interesting. They could do like an air dodge for Hunter. You can only dodge when you're in the air with it. Some weird maneuver that you do. I have no idea, but there's a lot of room for new class abilities that would get people off of just the standard, you know, status quo type of stuff. Next up, I want to talk about weapon barrels and magazines, and I'll use shotguns as an example. I think currently the way they're set up, they're ruining RNG for weapons. For shotguns, you have small bore, corkscrew, and barrel shroud. They're the options. They give you range or handling or both, and then rifled, smooth bore, and full choke are garbage. So you have a 50% chance of getting a good barrel, but you could make some of these changes that I recommend here, and you'd have a 100% chance. Rifled has way too high a handling nerf. Make it plus 15 range, minus 10 handling instead of plus 10 range, minus 15 handling. That way it differentiates itself more from small bore and has less of a handling penalty that might actually be worth taking in order to get that 15 range. Full choke, it gives you the slightest better like pellet spread. It's like 3.75% tighter. That's trash. And it has a precision damage penalty. Remove the precision damage penalty and improve the pellet spread decrease. Like, I'm talking like 5% maybe instead of 3.75. Then that's no longer like, oh, I got full choke. Now it's like, oh, I got full choke. That's fine. I'll take that. And for smooth bore, I think they should increase the penalty, make it widen the pellet spread even more, but only while like hip firing and jumping, like while you're in the air. Make that perk like, I want a straight line ape, so I'm going to use smooth bore because I got 15 range with no drawbacks. But then the second they hop up in the air, then they're in shambles. Or the second they're trying to hip fire really quickly to get a shot off, they're in shambles. I think that would be interesting. Like, make it specifically good for a certain playstyle, and people have to really focus on that playstyle to make the perk work. Otherwise, they'll just be better off going with like a rifled. Now let's move on to mags real quick. I'm going to talk about primary weapons with this one. Even though for shotguns, obviously, all you have is accurized, which is horrible. Assault mag's a good idea. It increases the rate of fire, but the more they nerf special ammo, the less that perk's useful. What they could do is add in a mag that improves handling, like a swap mag. Gives you like 15% faster ready speeds. That would be worthwhile, I think, over like accurized, depending on the shotgun. And then otherwise, I don't know. I actually don't know. The mags are tough for shotguns. Where they're not tough is on primaries. Currently, you have ricochet, and that's basically it. High cal's okay, light mag's okay. Like, you can settle for those two. Armor piercing just doesn't feel like it does anything. Armor piercing should be set up to be like a construct destroyer. Like, it does like 20% more damage to barricades, turrets, all the constructs. I think it should do that. And then the actual mag size increasers. This is what's really important to me. They should actually increase your mag size to like a significant degree. For example, Immortal has a 27 round mag. When you use a pendant mag, it gives you 2 bullets. So you have 29 rounds in the mag. I think that should be more like 35, and then extended mag should be more like 45. Like, why don't these actually really increase the mag size? Like, similar to what you can do in like the COD games where like you're getting drum mags on your weapon. I think that would be worthwhile. Like, I would actually consider not using ricochet rounds and instead using extended mag. And maybe I use extended mag with like Rampage or something, because now I can get multiple kills without having to reload. Just something like that. I think that would be really cool and make it less annoying when you don't get the thing you want. Like, that's the current issue. Not only do you not get the role you want sometimes, but getting other things than the role you want can actually be so detrimental to the point that it ruins the guns. Like, if I don't get small bore or corkscrew or barrel shroud on a shotgun and I get rifled and smooth bore, the shotgun's actually ruined. It's not just like it's bad, it's ruined. I can't even use that shotgun anymore. That's stupid to me. I really think everything should be viable in its own way, to where when you get a role, you're looking at something worthwhile basically no matter what. Obviously, you're still going to always want to target certain things, but if they made changes like this, you could actually go for other stuff or settle for other stuff and be less worse off for it. Another random idea, I got to backtrack here. Conditional Finality has a barrel called Shortened Barrel on it. It gives plus 20 handling, minus 5 range, minus 5 stability. That's a great barrel. They should just throw that on every shotgun right now. Like, that should be an option, something to get. It would be great on aggressive frames because they need handling bad, and that's why it's so good on Conditional Finality. The gun has really high handling as an aggressive frame, or very similar to one. It shoots around the same speed. And then I'll do this one last one before I go to the next section. Adept Icarus Script should provide 22 AE instead of that +5 handling that it does currently. I think Adept Icarus should just be more AE. Simple as that. The next section I have here is about weapon leveling. This is a current topic because Bungie just brought up the fact that they're going to introduce weapon enhancing to like tier 5. Like we're going to be enhancing the barrels, mags, and origin traits, it looks like, which is cool. What this could lead to though is some serious time sinks to level up weapons and or resource dumps. Like currently we can upgrade our weapons with resources. I think they should do away with that. And overhaul the system that we have currently in two major ways. One, just make it way faster to level up your guns, especially at the early stages. If I go into Crucible with a Rose at level 1 and pop off with it and drop like a 30 bomb, I should be like level 4 after that game. I don't think that's currently the case. I think you get like 30% progress for completing a match, and then kills and your participation in a game don't do that much for the weapon. They don't do enough at all, in my opinion. So I'd like to see that increased, and then obviously it can decrease pretty quickly over time and stabilize to where like you actually have to really put a lot of time in to level up your gun beyond that point. But getting to each of these tiers, I think, should be a pretty fast and fun and rewarding process. And then another thing they could do is make the weapon level universal for that weapon. If I get my Rose to level 30, all the Roses I get should just be level 30. Like the Rose should be considered like its own gun with its own level, and all Roses follow suit. They could even apply that with the enhancements. Like if I enhance a certain perk on Rose, all of the Roses I get should have that enhanceable without any more resources being needed to put into it. So essentially you could level up a gun all the way and enhance all the different perks it can have, and then store up some different rolls of it or something. Or ideally get all those perks on the gun at the same time to be switched between. That could lead to problems in Crucible though, where people are able to like switch between stuff too much. So that's a little out of hand. Like they don't necessarily need to do this enhanced part, but the level part I feel is really important. Like having to re-level, like imagine this, you got a pretty good roll of a gun and you dump all this time and resources into it to get it to tier 5, and then you get the slightly better roll a week later. Now you need to do it all over again. I don't like that at all. I think it should just be universal. The level you have for a gun is the level for that gun across the board. I think that'd be a cool change. It would make the weapon leveling experience an actual weapon leveling experience, and not just a press the level button for 30 seconds until it's level 17 and enhanced. Like this would be much more fun for me, and I think much more fun for the rest of the player base. The next thing I want to talk about is the Masterwork system for weapons. I think it's a little bit outdated. We got this all the way back in Warmind and it's never been revisited. I feel like Masterworks should be selectable rather than RNG. I think we're just at that point now where there's no longer a need to have this RNG option, because this was created back in Warmind, like I said, at a time when there was select roles. Like this was the actual RNG part of the role, was getting the right Masterwork. And I think it's just over with. We don't need this anymore. I think it should be selectable, and I think they should be much more interesting. I have a couple ideas here for other types of Masterworks, and you could even rework the ones we currently have too to join in with this group. But these are all like more under the hood weapon performance type stuff. So for example, an airborne Masterwork, or a hipfire Masterwork, a flinch resistance Masterwork, an ammo efficiency Masterwork, an elemental synergy Masterwork, or a recoil control Masterwork. And I think all of these would be catered more toward percentage increases rather than flat out stat increases. So for example, if I have a gun that's already 100 AE and I put an airborne Masterwork on it, it's not just wasted AE stats, but rather percentages that could push the gun beyond its on the ground performance. Like if AE system was how I want it to be, where you have 100 AE and your gun is the same as it is on the ground, in this system, if you pair that with an airborne Masterwork, now your gun's actually better in the air than it is on the ground. I think that'd be kind of cool. Same goes for hipfire. The ammo efficiency thing, I was kind of thinking of like maybe you get some ammo back on kills, and they can adjust that based on which type of weapon it is. And for elemental synergy, I was thinking maybe if you have that Masterwork on, if you're running a subclass that matches your weapon damage type, you get like an ability recharge benefit, like faster grenade charge. You can basically use the Masterwork to improve your ability builds, something like that. I mean, if the other Masterworks are good enough, then that trade-off, or then there would be a trade-off there rather than everyone just using that for faster ability charge. They're just all random ideas here though. Pretty wild stuff, honestly, especially that elemental synergy one. I don't know if that's necessarily a good idea, but the other ones I really like the idea of, and I think they should be considered because, like I said, masterworking just feels like this old relic that remains on the guns. It's like it just looks old, it looks out of place, and I'd like to see it overhauled a little bit. Moving on from Masterworks, I want to talk about weapon frame ideas real quick, and they've been doing a good job of adding in new weapon frames recently. We got the support frame auto and the rocket sidearm, for example, which are great in PvE. We haven't been seeing much interesting stuff for PvP, and if you've been picking up on what I've been talking about a lot throughout this video, you can probably predict what I'm about to say for a couple of ideas for weapon frames. One weapon frame could be like an airborne frame maybe, or a hipfire frame, you know, something that works with those two things that I really want more of in the game. Hand cannons have an opening here for something like that. We lost 150s a while ago, so there's only 3 archetypes of hand cannons, whereas there's usually 4 archetypes of everything else. So maybe a 150 hand cannon that has pretty crappy ADS range, but when hip fired, shoots at 180 RPM, still 3 taps though, and operates within the mid 20 range. It'll be a 0.67 time to kill if you hit that 3 tap while hip firing. But if you balance the recoil and the forgiveness well, I think you could have a genuine option. You could also have it do really bad body shot damage like Last Word does, so it's like a pseudo baby Last Word, with pretty good hip fire. And overall, you can probably see where I'm getting at here with my philosophy. Like, if you applied everything I've brought up to this point and you had this, say, this hip fire hand cannon frame, you would have a hip fire hand cannon frame, hip fire perks on it, hip fire mods, armor mods, a hipfire masterwork. Like, you could do all this different stuff to make the hipfire better, better, and better until it was actually really good and worthwhile. Only if you were really interested in hipfiring though. Otherwise, you can go a different route. You can go the airborne route, or you can go stationary, you can go kill chaining. I just feel like none of that exists at this current point in the game. There's no point to even attempt to do this stuff because you're just putting yourself at a disadvantage. Whereas if you follow some of these changes and some of these ideas, you'd end up creating multiple paths towards different playstyles that I view all as fun. Jumping in the air, hip firing, and ADSing. They're all fun to do in this game, but I'd like to be able to build into each of those particular things more than you currently can. And now I'm going to move on to my last section here. We are coming to the end of the video here. This has been a long one, so if you're still here at this point, I appreciate it. And I just want to talk about armor real quick. Back in Lightfall, we lost the stat benefit mods like Radiant Light and Powerful Friends. They used to give plus 20 stats to strength and mobility, and we've never seen anything since to really make up for that. We obviously got the plus 3 stat Artifice mod slot, but that only made up 15 of those 40 stats we lost, so we're still down 25. And I think I have so much armor at this point, I don't even care about new armor I get. I think it might be time to increase the max stat roll that armor can get, like by 4 to 5. To really close in that gap and close in the amount of stats that we lost all the way back in Lightfall. I think this would just recreate the need for getting high stat armor. It's kind of lame, it's artificial, but it's been so long since I've cared about armor. I'm ready to get some more armor. And it's not like it takes a long time. You can just hit up the seasonal vendor and focus a bunch of armor pieces. It'll be done in an instant. But I really want those stats back. I want to hit the quad 100 build again. And this would also open up another interesting opportunity to add another mod slot for armor. Because currently, there's no reason to ever forgo running a stat mod, both because you really need the stats and because there's not enough mods to really use up all the mod energy in the 3 slots that we have. If you were to add in a 4th mod slot, you could run things like 2 harmonic mods, like harmonic loader, harmonic dexterity, heavy-handed, and firepower all at the same time, and forgo running like a discipline mod. And in this system, you could actually warrant doing that because you're up in stats by like 16 to 20, depending on if they gave armor that stat bonus that I was talking about, 4 to 5. And I think that would just make things more interesting. I do think there's also room for new armor mods, and I'm sure there's a lot of ideas you can come up with PvE, but for PvP, these are the 2 I cooked up. Hipfire mod, very similar to the in-flight compensator mod, would be really cool and I think really warranted. You could throw it on like the arms or the chest, and then they could also add in like a feather falling mod on the legs, a little Minecraft action, reduce fall damage, and more importantly, reduce the severe landing animation that makes it so hard to shoot your gun, and also reduce the jumping animation as well, like I've been talking about in the other sections. That would be a very cool mod, very worthwhile. And every time you add in stuff like this, you're basically taking away an orb mod or something like that that gives you ability energy. It's reducing how much abilities are going around for another much more useful, much more fun benefit, in my opinion. And that's pretty much it. That was 5 pages of stuff I wrote out, and I'm pretty happy with all these ideas I came up with, many of which might not be possible to implement in the game, especially in the short term, but I think they're all somewhat realistic and somewhat interesting and should be considered a little bit, because most of them, like I said at the start, they're targeted toward increasing options and increasing the amount of play styles you can build into and commit to in this game, because I think right now you're very limited to kind of just being on the ground and ADSing your weapon and pairing that with your abilities. Like it doesn't get much more than that without taking some serious trade-offs that I don't think are warranted anymore after all this time. And with how little players are left, I think it's time to just start doing stuff that they've always feared doing. But that's going to be it for the video. If you made it to this point, you are actually a legend, because this is going to be a long one. So drop a like, subscribe. I don't know how often I'm going to be uploading, to be honest, but that's going to wrap this one up. Thanks for watching.